Today's definition of innovation is different, or it's conceived differently than what we were observing sort of the pre-recession time 4, 5, 6 years ago. I think back pre-recession we thought of innovation as change, or innovation as creativity and unleashing creativity and change within an organization. I think as we've matured in our understanding of innovation, more and more companies and organizations view innovation not as change simply, and not as sort of creativity that emerges in an organization, but it really is intentional change that leads to meaningful solutions and results.
We know from recent history what's happened to companies who have not been laser focused on the way they invested in innovation. There was a period in not too many years ago when innovation was thought of as a silver bullet, and we innovated for innovation's sake. In fact, I think you could trace a lot of the collapse during the dot-com bubble to that problem. A lot of startup technology companies thought that if we just invent it, they will come, and so they leveraged themselves heavily against that idea and paid a high price.
I think most people would agree that we got into an accelerated pace of living with accelerated opportunity. For many companies, there was the propensity to try to be everything to everybody. And of course, we were creating cultures that were attracting capable people, and then we were letting them run, empowering them, go forth, bring your brilliance into the company. And we had, in many ways, this very visionary approach to what we were doing. Everything is possible. It's the vision. And what we ended up having was a lot of capable people who were empowered, coming up with ideas that maybe did fit within this high-level vision. And there was plenty of money to fuel those ideas. And it actually led to a fairly fast-paced, at times frantic, at times overwhelming approach for people within companies. I think that, again, in abundant times, what we experienced with some of our clients was we'd talk about culture on Monday, and then we'd talk about change on Wednesday, and then we might talk about new ideas for innovation on Friday, not realizing that they're all intimately woven together. They all impact one another, and they're all impacted by one another. So we have many clients today that really sort of embrace the notion that our culture, the culture that we've created, creates the foundation for our ability to change, and change in a meaningful and thoughtful manner that then can lead to solutions, results, and ultimately to true innovation.
I started researching culture and innovation and the Denison Model and innovation from the first day I started here, like 6.5 years ago. It was something that was important, and you kind of set off of finding what's the most important trait or what's the most important index. But the reality is, it's all important, and it's there's innovation in every single question of the model. You might see it more directly in, we're able to, create change, and some of the items that are in adaptability kind of read as oh yeah, that's related to innovation. But the reality is, every single one of those components of the model is really important to fostering, sustaining innovation. I mean, you have to have a healthy culture overall.
Innovation in its full expression taps every single quadrant of the model in a heavy way. Now, I happen to be biased to believe it starts with mission. If we really understand precisely where we're trying to go and to what end, in other words, what is it our ultimate vision says we want to be, then you'll quickly identify what it would take to close the gap. And closing that gap is going to demand a degree of innovation inevitably. It's only a question of how much. how much is innovation a critical success factor? If it is to a sufficient degree, it is a core strategy. Now ultimately it touches on a lot of other aspects of organizational effectiveness, but to me it all starts with, to what extent is innovation critical business strategy? If it is, then let's go for it, whatever that takes.
If you go into a company that has low color in their Denison score, it's hard for them to, they don't have the organizational muscle to know how to work together, to communicate. They don't have the consistency, and they don't always have the practice of listening to customers. If you go into an organization that has lots of color, they tend to have a lot of basic skills. They're clear on their mission and where they're going. They have some processes in place, and they're adaptable to new processes and techniques that allow them to rigorously explore what the customer's needs are, and then there's enough organizational learning going on that they can springboard off of each other and come up with new ideas to really address what it is the customer needs and wants. And it's in that dialogue and it's in that exchange, the organizational learning, where you get new insights, and those insights lead to action and innovation.
Denison's model, in terms of the involvement quadrant, I like to go from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So first it's capability development, then it's team orientation, then it's empowerment. We teach a lot of organizations innovative thinking skills and tools. Everybody has certain innate preferences and where they show up, so everyone can make a contribution in the innovative thinking process. That's very enabling. The other thing about innovation is that those skills are easily learned, so the things that aren't your preferences can soon be capabilities for you. There's a lot of things that are subtle, that are embedded within the involvement category that really enable innovation.
I think that all aspects of the model are important to innovation. And when I think about consistency, I think about it as really kind of being the really important supporting piece that supports all the other pieces of the model in terms of really driving innovation forward. So I don't think consistency is, I don't think organizations necessarily foster innovation through consistency. But what I do think is that it's kind of the supporting glue. So at the end of the day, consistency takes a look at the values and systems and processes that create stability in an organization. And I think sometimes that sounds kind of counterintuitive to innovation, right? Because innovation is all about change and doing something different. But the reality is every successful organization needs to have that stability and integration to do anything successfully. And innovation's no different from that. You aren't going to be able to successfully innovate if you don't have the stability internally and the integration internally to actually implement and sustain that innovation. So, I think regardless of the particular way or strategy that an organization fosters innovation, it's consistency is actually that necessary supporting piece. You can't innovate without it.
Beliefs and assumptions are at the core of our culture. With certainly the Denison tools, we measure behaviors that are occurring within an organization, which then translates into the culture that we're experiencing. And for a lot of our clients, even though we've known beliefs and assumptions is important, it wasn't until the last probably 3 years that a lot of our longtime clients were finally ready to go deeper into the center of that circumplex, that gray area. And I think in relation to innovation, that was where some of the more clarifying conversations could take place as to why do we believe that this change or this innovation is going to lead us to the future. It's been really, I think, encouraging to see the depth at which executives are willing to sit with the questions and ask the why under the why before actually taking action. So moving from kind of a fire approach to a ready, aim, fire approach, which again feeds discipline and rigor, I think, in a more careful way of moving forward. Not that companies aren't moving forward, they are, but it's just with a lot more intention and more thoughtfulness.